Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'd like to talk about another camera today, but before I do, a big thank you to everyone that has been watching my videos, liking them, making comments, and particularly subscribing. My subscriber rate has gone up and I'm really grateful. One unsubscribed, but well, let's not focus on that. Today it's all about the Praktica BMS electronic, so let's waste no more time. So here it is. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you might remember the video I did about this Praktica, the MTL50. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you watch it first because I'm going to refer to it a few times. So I'll put a link up in the top corner. But this is a slightly newer model. The MTL50 was 1985, this one 1989. It was only actually produced for 1 year, so 1990 they stopped manufacturing of it. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. So only a couple of years newer, but there's a lot of additions on this that were not on the MTL series. As its name suggests, there's a lot more electronics built into this one, so some automated features that you wouldn't have had on a more simplistic model. Similarities first of all, obviously both Praktica, both 35mm SLRs. They both have a light meter built into them so that you can try and make sure that you get the best exposure that you can. And that's sort of where the similarities end. So on to differences, apart from the colour scheme obviously. The BMS is slightly smaller, as you can possibly see, although pretty much the same weight, but I think that's a lot to do with the lens that's on here, so we'll look at that more in a moment. Let's put the MTL aside. Camera first of all, and then we'll look at the lens. So on top here we have our, obviously, wind spool to bring it back into the canister after you finish the film, and we've got a lever for our take-up. Counter for our frame number, and we've got here our shutter speed setting. Slightly more options than on the MTL, so this one runs from 1/1000th of a second right down to 4 seconds and then bulb. The MTL50 only actually went down to 1 second, so a little bit more flexibility. Shutter release with obviously with a receptacle for the cable release, and this one, new feature if you like, is a little switch to prevent you from accidentally taking a picture, so a little lock on the shutter release there, which is quite nice. On the wind back spool we also have an ASA or ISO setting for the film speed that we use, and again slightly wider range on what's available compared to the older model. We also have here a battery check button, which I'm a little confused by, I have to say. Pressing it lights up the LEDs inside the viewfinder for the light meter, but the same action can be performed by half pressing the shutter anyway to get your exposure reading, so I'm not really sure if that's got a particular function that I'm unaware of. Perhaps if you know different you can leave a comment for me. We've got a hot shoe for the flash here. If we open up the back, I'm just going to lift this up and that should pop open. Nothing particularly remarkable on the inside, metal shutters, that sort of thing, but yeah, it's pretty much the same as most SLRs at the moment, I think. Let's close that back up again. Little window here that you can slide in from your box of film. You can tear off the details, what speed it is, you know, its development times, that sort of thing, which some people would find handy. It's not something I've ever used, to be honest with you. Moving round to the front then, we have a self-timer, as I've featured on a few other different cameras, about 12 seconds I think. And then we come to the lens itself. Now this is the lens that came with it when I purchased it on Facebook Marketplace for just £10, which I'm really pleased with. However, obviously like most SLRs, it's interchangeable with other lenses. On the previous Praktica, I showed you that it had the M42 mount, which is a 42mm screw mount. This one's slightly different, so this is a bayonet mount that Praktica introduced. So what I do is I press this little button here, and then I can twist the lens and it comes off. It's just, as I say, a bayonet fitting. When you go to put it back, it's a case of lining up red dot with red dot to actually get it to connect, and then turning until it clicks. Simple as that. So this lens is a zoom lens, although being a small one, 35mm to 70, and it's a f3.5 aperture is the widest aperture, and the aperture can be changed on this ring here, so it runs from f3.5 to f22. A particular feature I like on this one that we didn't have before, and in fact none of my other SLRs so far have this, little window here actually allows you to see what the aperture setting is whilst you're looking through the viewfinder, so you'll see that in a moment when I show you inside. Other rings then, this is the zoom, which you can see working there, and obviously we have our focus ring as there. It's quite tricky to film through the viewfinder, but as you can see here marked is the aperture number that I mentioned earlier. And then down the right hand side we have the various shutter speeds that the camera's recommending, and finally at the top we have an indicator to say when the flash is actually ready to shoot. Here's me pressing the shutter halfway down, and what's happening effectively is that the flashing button is where it thinks the shutter speed should be set to, and then the solid button is where it's actually set to. So obviously once you've then got just a single solid button, that it feels is the ideal exposure. So let's take a look at some pictures. So there we go, that's the BMS electronic from Praktica. So far the newest film camera I own. Thanks once again for watching, really appreciate all the views. Other than that, we've just been announced that we're going back into lockdown here in the UK, so I hope you all take care of yourselves wherever you are in the world. It's weird times at the moment, but we can get through it, and on the bright side, it gives you plenty of time to look for that next camera. See you next time. Thank you.